Two DEA agents indicted on a bribery scheme. Can you believe it? What's up, all my fellow lunatics out there? I'm Rational Lunatic, and before we get started, I would just like to say, if you don't think or have any inclination that the mob could still be running, at least, behind the scenes somewhere, then just follow along on this story with me, because there's just, my opinion. But between the names and what these guys were doing, it to me just sounds like a total mob mentality type deal. But like I said, I'm not saying that they work for the mob or anything like that. I'm just saying you never know. Anyway, with that being said, you know the gist. It's not clickbait. It's true. It's blue. It's official corruption news, and we're bringing you that story right now. Now, this story is brought to you from the United States Attorney's Office, Southern District of New York. Current and former DEA agents indicted for bribery scheme. DEA agent John Costanzo Jr. charged with accepting bribes from former DEA agent Manuel Riccio in exchange for sharing of sensitive non-public DEA information. Damian Williams, the United States Attorney of the Southern District of New York, Michael J. Driscoll, the Assistant Director in charge of the New York office of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, and James F. Boyersmith, Special Agent in charge of the Department of Justice Office of the Inspector General Miami Field Office, announced that John Costanzo Jr., a Drug Enforcement Administration DEA Special Agent, and Manuel Riccio, a former DEA Assistant Special Agent in charge, were indicted in Manhattan Federal Court with conspiracy to bribe a public official, conspiracy to commit honest services wire fraud, and honest services wire fraud for a scheme in which Riccio funneled tens of thousands of dollars to Costanzo in exchange for Costanzo providing sensitive law enforcement information to Riccio to assist Riccio in recruiting clients for defense lawyers. In addition, Costanzo was charged with accepting a bribe from Riccio, and Riccio was charged with giving a bribe to Costanzo. Costanzo and Riccio were arrested and presented before Magistrate Judge Barbara Moses. The case has been assigned to U.S. District Judge J. Paul Oetken. I mean, and just by their names alone, they just sound Italian to me. But what do you think? U.S. Attorney Damian Williams said, quote, "The conduct alleged in the indictment violates the core duty of law enforcement officers to protect and serve the public, rather than to use their access to sensitive information to enrich themselves. As alleged, Manuel Riccio provided substantial secret payments to John Costanzo Jr. and in exchange received information about pending DEA investigations, sealed indictments, and impending arrests. It is critical for federal law enforcement officers to preserve the integrity of ongoing investigations and not divulge confidential information to the private sector in exchange for financial benefits," unquote. According to the indictment, unsealed in Manhattan Federal Court, John Costanzo Jr. is a DEA special agent currently assigned to DEA headquarters and was a group supervisor in the DEA's Miami Field office until June 2019. Manuel Riccio is a former DEA special agent who retired as the Assistant Special Agent in charge for the Miami Field office in November of 2018. Yeah, so these guys weren't just your basic agents. Both these guys held a higher standing within the DEA administration. Upon his retirement, Riccio began operating his own business, which provided private investigative services to criminal defense attorneys and also helped defense attorneys to recruit clients from around the time of Riccio's retirement through around November of 2019. Riccio agreed with Costanzo to provide benefits to Costanzo in exchange for Costanzo providing Riccio with non-public information about DEA investigations. Costanzo provided Riccio with information about forthcoming sealed indictments and non-public investigations, such as the identities of individuals charged and the anticipated timing of arrests, and intelligence with Costanzo obtained from the Narcotics and Dangerous Drug Enforcement System, NADIS, a DEA database that contains information about individuals who are or have been under investigation by the DEA. Riccio paid Costanzo for this information, which Riccio used to help recruit new clients for criminal defense attorneys. As alleged in the indictment, among the benefits paid to Costanzo were a $2,500 payment made in November of 2018, shortly after Riccio's retirement from the DEA, which was funneled to Costanzo through a company owned by a close family member of Costanzo. At the same time that this payment was made, Riccio began asking Costanzo to run searches in NADIS to provide Riccio with non-public DEA information about DEA targets and investigations. Following that initial payment, Riccio and others continued to provide benefits to Costanzo, including tens of thousands of dollars that were funneled from Riccio through a company created by a DEA task force officer, and $50,000 that was paid to Costanzo through a close family member for Costanzo's purchase of a condominium in January and February of 2019. In return, Costanzo continued to provide non-public DEA information to Riccio, including information about the timing of forthcoming indictments and information about DEA arrests, plans of particular targets. DEA arrest plans of particular targets. Costanzo also searched NADIS for names of particular individuals requested by Riccio on dozens of occasions during the schemes, and provided Riccio with information and assistance with particular charged defendants represented by attorneys for whom Riccio was working. During the scheme, Costanzo and Riccio took steps to conceal the existence of the scheme, including by structuring the payments from Riccio to Costanzo through third parties and through Costanzo's use of a cell phone provided by Riccio for communications related to the scheme. Costanzo Jr., 47, of Arlington, Virginia, and Riccio, 53, of Miami, Florida, are each charged with one count of conspiracy to commit bribery, which carries a maximum term of 5 years in prison, and one count of receiving or paying a bribe, respectively, which carries a maximum term of 15 years in prison. Costanzo and Riccio are also charged with one count of conspiracy to commit honest service wire fraud and one count of honest services wire fraud, each of which counts carries a maximum term of 20 years in prison. So they're looking at a long time if they get convicted of each of these counts. The maximum potential sentences in this case are prescribed by Congress and is provided here for informational purposes only, as any sentencing of the defendants will be determined by the judge. Mr. Williams praised the outstanding investigative work of the FBI and the Department of Justice Office for the Inspector General, and thanked the DEA's Office of Professional Responsibility for its support in this matter. The prosecution is being handled by the office's Money Laundering and Transitional Criminal Enterprises Unit. Assistant United States Attorney Thane Wren and Sheb Sweat, are in charge of the prosecution. The entirety of the text of the indictment and the description of the indictment set forth herein constitute only allegations, and every fact described should be treated as an allegation. Some pretty heavy allegations, and like I said, not only was Riccio paying Costanzo for information about possible clients, upcoming arrests and indictments, so they can get possible clients for the attorneys he was working for, but he was asking for specific information on specific people. Now, why would you need specific information on specific people unless those people are in jeopardy of being investigated. And you're telling me the mob still isn't around somewhere, some way, somehow? I don't know. But, like I said, that's my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. If you don't know me, get to know me, because you're going to want to. And with that being said, stay wild.